Hey, well, speaking of Ryan Day, Ohio State obviously gets the job done against Grambling. So what is real from this? What is it that you can take away? Because if you go on the internet and you say anything positive about this game, everyone's response is, dude, it's Grambling. So what of this that you saw do you think is actually worth putting your flag in the ground and saying, no, that's legit what you saw?
Both of the bands, they were phenomenal. In all seriousness, I think Julian can really spin the rock. Against Texas, we just didn't see it because it wasn't asked of him. But I keep referring back to that game. There were some throws that he made that weren't completions that were really good throws. And then you get basically a game where it's like routes on air, and you get to see the arm talent out of him. And so as this team gets more comfortable and as they get more comfortable with him, I think you'll start to see him really rise as a quarterback who can spin it, really good ball placement, got a good feel for the game, touch. He's got power on the ball, all the things that you'd like to see.
Josh,
outside of that, I'd take everything else with a grain of salt. Go ahead.
Josh, when we look at we talk about the offense, let's look at the running game, because obviously last year you had Quinshine and Travion, who was phenomenal. This year, James People, where are you at with James People? Because a lot of people are screaming to Bo Jackson. It's been so many comments today that Bo Jackson is the best running back in the room, and we need to let him play. Where are you at with James People? How do you see this run game playing out?
I think he's got to come along a little bit more. If we're going based off of what we saw in week one, I wasn't overly impressed with the run game whatsoever. This is another one of those where I'm glad that they ran the ball the way that they did. I think they averaged over 7 yards a carry, which was great. To your point, like Bo Jackson had the big day, but I want to see what this run offense looks like against a defensive front that can cause them some real issues. And I think the personnel is going to be fine. I think that they've recruited well enough in that running back room that you can put these guys out there and feel confident about them. I think what we saw last year was a bit of an evolution with the run game, and what Chip Kelly did so well was he's a guy who, he loved counter schemes, and he would bring guys across the formation from all over. You'd see the counters with the guards pulling. You'd see it with the tight end coming around. Sometimes he'd motion a wide receiver, and you get all three guys on the counter action, right? And it's just those types of things that create extra gaps, puts the defense in a bind. It really challenges their eyes. And I think when we see Ohio State get into some more complex run schemes, these guys will all look like really good players.
Joshua Perry joining us in the Bryant Heating and Cooling Systems fan guest hotline. Speaking of teams that played a nobody, and I guess I don't know if we can put stock in what we saw. Oregon, 69-3 over Oklahoma State. The comments from clearly Mike Gundy had a lot to do with that. After the game, Dan Lanning said as much. But how much do you put stock in what Mike Gundy said, about how we have to play maybe at the same tax bracket of, payment now with NIL? Or is that a message that you could hear in any other sport? Like Major League Baseball, I can't imagine a manager saying, sorry, their payroll's 3 times as much as ours. Can't do anything about that.
Yeah, I mean, in baseball, the teams just go out there and suck and they collect their check, and that's just really what they do. It was interesting after the game, the Oregon quarterback, Dante Moore, made a comment like, I see Dan Lanning as a father figure, like you don't get to talk about my father, and then we don't do anything about it. And then the other part of that was, Coach Lanning and Phil, which is Phil Knight, which I thought was insane, that now we're at the point where the biggest booster from the school gets to be in the post-game commentary from the players about how you want to defend their honor because somebody called them out. Gundy should have never made that comment. And I think this goes back to a lot of times when you're just making commentary in general, you should do the we, I thing more than the they and the you thing. And so he should have just basically said, listen, guys, I think we're going to get our butt kicked. And part of the reason why is we don't raise enough money. This is a guy who, in order to come back, by the way, reduced his salary. And then part of that money went to their NIL fund, and they're still not spending enough. And so I get the message for his fan base and for their boosters where it's like, we're going to see a team right here who's all aligned and they get the money that they need and they spend it and they're going to be really good, and we're not. But he should have never said, oh, well, maybe they should schedule schools that spend as much as them, because Oklahoma State didn't do that in week one. They went ahead and got their win against a team that I know isn't spending as much money as they are. So I understand his sentiment and how frustrating that has to be, but he never had to make that about Oregon.
When you look at let's zoom out. When you look at the Big Ten as a whole, who is the team to be outside of Ohio State? Who is the other team that you're like, all right, I can see that being the Big Ten championship?
feels like Oregon to me right now. I like what I saw out of Illinois, and I know like people are like, oh, it was Duke. And I think Duke's actually not a bad ball team, and Manny Diaz does really good things defensively to cause issues, and they did for a half of that game. And last year, this would have been a game for Illinois where they probably would have had to go down in a late drive in the fourth quarter and try to win it, and they completely pulled away, caused a lot of turnovers. Their run game came alive in the second half. Oregon, different level, different athletes, like see all of that in them. The one that was disappointing to me is Penn State because I feel like their pass game is still small. And I don't know if that is a commentary now about maybe Drew Aller not being everything we thought he was going to be, like very talented player, very good player, but maybe not like that super game changer, or if it's a commentary about they went out and got the wrong wide receivers out of the portal and that room didn't get as much better the way it needed to. But they were disappointing because I still feel like when I watch them offensively, it looks like it's hard to get yards. And they don't have Tyler Warren this year, who's kind of their eraser and their problem solver. So I'm waiting to see if they can come along and be one of those teams where it's like, oh, no, they can definitely win it. I think Ohio State can definitely win it. And after watching Oregon for the first couple weeks, I think they can too.
One more question about Big Ten teams. Iowa, they lose to Iowa State. In the way those games always go, they're close.
What's the name of the game they played?
The Cy Hawk Trophy is what, the trophy is, but we like to call it El Assico. Here's the thing. This is 2 games in a row where Mark Gronowski, their big transfer quarterback they bring in, who put up numbers where he was previously, he hasn't thrown for 100 yards yet. And I just wonder, is that a feature or a bug with the Iowa offense at this point? Like, they can't claim this isn't, they can't claim this is a problem when every time they bring in a quarterback, it seems like they have this similar kind of performance.
It's intriguing because I think Gronowski is a better player than what he's looked like through 2 games. But you also kind of are what you are after having those 2 games specifically. Their wide receivers are awful. And I hate to like disparage guys who I know are working hard like that, but it's just they can't get open. They don't actually catch the football all that well. And so that's a problem. And I don't think their offense is very creative. They don't challenge people. I would ask you to watch the Iowa State defense and what they did. And similarly, what Oklahoma did against Michigan over the weekend, those safeties are so aggressive. They line up at 11 or 12 yards and they stand flat-footed and they come downhill because they're not threatened by anybody on the outside. And they know it's an offense that they won't take the top off of the defense. And I think that's a big problem. Iowa at this point to me is like the Chicago Bears, where it's like, even when you get excited about a quarterback, you don't really have a quarterback. So maybe it gets better throughout the year, but I would look more toward what's around Gronowski there rather than him, because the wide receivers for the last handful of years have been a non-feature in that offense.
Joshua, we appreciate it. We'll talk again next week. All right.
All right. Appreciate you guys.
There we go. They're calling him Indiana Jones, by the way, on Twitter. That's what I'm saying.
I mean, you know what? Danny Dimes died. That's bad thoughts. But Indiana Jones, that is the new person he's walked into.
Danny Dimes walked, so Indiana Jones.
Thanks to Joshua Perry for that. He was on the Bryan Heating and Cooling Systems Fan Guest Hotline. We'll be back.